Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Faerie, Fable, Librarians. I'm Simona.
I'm Katie.
And today we're very excited because we're going to be discussing Season 2 of the Legend of Vox Machina.
Or at least half of it.
I know that at least they've had episodes 1 to 6 have been put on Amazon Prime, so those are the episodes that we will be talking about. So if you haven't watched all of them, come back later. We also discussed Season 1. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video, please do. And as always, leave your comments. We enjoy reading them. So Season 2 picks up right where Season 1 left off, where the king of Iman is giving his speech, and it's interrupted by 4 dragons that essentially fly in and wreak havoc. It was a pretty good opening episode. The sheer chaos and destruction and panic that these dragons are able to cause was difficult to watch at times, but it was a truly wonderful opener for Season 2. And I was listening to a video that talks about that Season 2 differs from the original source material, so the original campaigns. I'm not familiar with the campaigns that the animated series is based on. I didn't watch enough to really be able to speak on that, so I won't really be talking about that. But if any of our listeners are familiar with the original campaigns and you would like to chime in, as always, we enjoy reading your comments. And I don't know how much of the original campaign.
So I started watching it in the beginning few episodes, but after a while I kind of just fell off of it, and then I had I'm having problems with the third campaign. I stopped watching, and now there's too many and I gotta catch up, so I just so it's hard when it's when the videos are 3 to 4 hours long.
Yeah, they are a commitment. They are highly entertaining. If you haven't looked at any of the Critical Role campaigns, they are very entertaining. They are very good. So Katie and I will be talking strictly about the show, so we won't be able to really do a comparison what was cut out, what was kept. And so so first episode picks up from the first season. The dragons invade Iman. They destroy it. Vox Machina, they have to flee. As soon as they arrive, they have to go back. And at first they are taken aback by the chaos of the situation, because I think also at this point, aren't most dragons supposed to be extinct? I was trying to remember why the appearance of the dragons is so shocking. Is it just because they weren't prepared, or because they're supposed to have been extinct?
I don't think extinction is really the thing. I think it's because they weren't prepared.
Okay.
And it's 4 very large dragons attacking the city. Yeah. I don't think anyone would be not surprised by that at all.
Yeah, but I don't know. For some reason, I thought that there was an even bigger deal behind the but I'm trying to remember Season 1. But anyway, yeah. So 4 dragons attack the capital city. They lay it to waste. The royal family is presumed to have been murdered in the ensuing chaos.
Well, the Prince of Iman, because he's technically the Prince of Iman. He's not really the king. He does die in the attack, but his family is saved by one of the female characters that are on the council, and her name's escaping me at this point, but she saves them all.
Yeah, so in the chaos, Vox Machina, they head out. They try to meet up at a friend's sort of business establishment, and the dragons essentially state that they are now the supreme rulers, and that humans must pay tribute to them, must bow to them, and they announce themselves as the Chroma Conclave. And maybe that's what I'm thinking was supposed to have been sort of not extinct, but non-existent. I think that's what I'm confused. So it's not the dragons, it's the Chroma Conclave. And that's what they announced that they are, and they're basically going to start a new order where dragons will have dominion over the entire world. So the team manages to escape Iman. They go through a portal, and they go to Percy's hometown, which is where the opposite tree or portal door is.
The sun tree. They go through. The sun tree. They exit out of the sun tree in Whitehall.
Yes, I believe so.
I'm sorry,
I'm
guys.
not good with names. So, yeah. So, like I said, you want to chime in whenever we miss something, let us know.
And be kind.
Yes, be
Be
kind.
kind.
Be kind to us. So they speak with Percy's sister and the village elder, and it's the
Cassandra.
village elder who suggests they head over to Vasselheim, which is this other very powerful city that has sort of maintained its power because it's very isolated. They don't really involve themselves with the affairs of the outside world. But the village elder suggests go to Vasselheim and seek their assistance. Long story short, the leaders of Vasselheim, while they commiserate with the what's happening in Iman, they're reluctant to offer any assistance because they want to maintain their own peace. They don't want to risk, which is understandable. They don't want to risk their own people.
Reluctance.
It's.
There was no reluctance in that. There was a flat out no.
I was trying to be kind.
Don't be kind.
They flat out say no.
Don't be kind. They were very much arrogant and had the air of elitism, and they were like, nope,
Yeah. So
no.
So Katie's telling it like it is. They basically refuse to offer any assistance. They say, we are deeply sorry, but there's nothing that we can possibly do. One of the members of the council sort of sneaks out and gets Vox Machina before they're leaving and saying, I sympathize with what you're going through. Unlike the other council members, I believe that something should be done. So he tells them to seek the assistance of the patron of the Slayer's Take. Which, can I say, I love the Slayer's Take.
We can, yes.
They are an awesome bunch of swords for
patron.
hire. Yeah. I
love
just
their
love
patron.
the introduction. I love how Vex is super confident that she has enough friends in the Slayer's Take that they're going to offer her
Friends.
assistance. Vax
What
is a bit
friends?
more reluctant.
There's a reason for that, though.
I think he knows his sister all too well. And Vax ends up being right. The Slayers sees them, and they essentially want to kill him.
There's a bounty on their heads.
Yeah, so they want to
it's-
claim that bounty.
And it's like, I believe on the bounty it says alive or dead.
Oh yeah,
So it doesn't really matter if they're still alive to collect the bounty.
Well, thankfully the patron intervenes, and the patron is revealed to be a sphinx.
Which is really cool.
She is very cool. She's very much a badass. I like her introduction. Mm-hmm. And she basically informs Vox Machina that their only hope of defeating the Chroma Conclave is to find these vestiges, which are these weapons of great power, and these weapons alone will be able to defeat the dragons, but the weapons have been scattered. So
And like just to clarify, it's not just weapons, it's also armor, because the first vestige that they have to find
Yes.
is a suit of armor from the former champion of the matron of ravens.
could we say they're instruments of warfare, so the armor would be included?
We can call them instruments.
We
of
will
warfare.
call them, I will call them instruments of warfare. So they have to locate these vestiges which have been scattered, and hence they have to go on these quests to locate each of the vestiges, which won't be easy because there's sort of protections in place that make it difficult for they simply can't just take the vestiges.
Magical booby traps.
Exactly. So the first vestige is located in this temple near a lake. Turns out it's under
Submerged.
the lake.
It has been submerged.
And they are only able to know that because two members of the Slayer's Take, Zara and Cash, come under the guise that they're there to assist Vox Machina. I like Cash. I like his personality. Zara's not too bad, but I'm feeling Cash. So these are two new characters that introduced.
Can I just say, I do like Zara's character design.
I loved her character design. I love her power, and I love the dynamic
Her
between the two of
personality
them.
and attitude, though, needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, it does, but she's part of the Slayer's Take. They're mercenaries and bounty hunters, so I guess it's understandable that she has no qualms with being deceptive and manipulative. So they assist Vox Machina in locating the temple, which is under the lake. Of course, they have to navigate several booby traps. There's a lot of humorous moments that ensue as they're trying to navigate these booby traps. So the Vox Machina is able to locate what's called the Death Walker's ward. Mm-hmm. and it's sort of like in this sarcophagus.
Because the champion of the matron of ravens was buried with a vestige.
Yes, I need Katie because Katie remembers these details that I miss.
I try.
Percy being sort of like the one who's always sort of eager to act first and kind of think a bit later, proceeds with trying, I think, to like.
Well,
does he press something? Or?
I mean, let's be clear. There was no real indication to say that the vestige was under any type of spell or there was a trap with the vestige. It just kind of like the sarcophagus kind of like just appeared out of the floor.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't think that just by touching it would have activated something.
Yeah. Vex seems to sense things like throughout leading up to this point, she seems to have like maybe even in the previous season there's hints that she has some kind of
like she gets really bad headaches when dragons are near.
Yeah,
that's about the extent
but
of it.
Was she also getting, because a few times throughout at least the first or second episode the matron of ravens does kind of appear.
That's her twin brother. Her twin brother sees her. No one else sees her.
Yeah, I don't know why. I have a feeling that more than one character saw her. Like, that was one of my problems. I thought that, I know Vax definitely saw her. For some reason I thought another member of the party did, but I'm probably wrong. Vax has been seeing this strange figure. I don't necessarily know if he knows who she is immediately.
No, he has not. He just sees her come out of fog. And knows that she's feathery but has no idea who she is or what she's associated with.
Yeah. So Percy touches the sarcophagus and it activates like a spell that was on it. The spell sort of shoots through Vex, apparently killing her.
Oh no, it definitely kills her because in the campaign, the necromancy that shoots out of the vestige, and they all had to make what's it called? I don't think it was charismatic charisma saves. I think it was they had to make a saving throw.
Okay.
I can't think of the word for it. And Laura Bailey, who plays Vex, she rolled too low and didn't save her, and she was hit with necromantic energy, and
because she rolled low, the necromantic energy was able to sort of kill her.
It hit her, and the hit point was so high that she went down to 0.
Okay. So we're gonna say, for all intents and purposes, Vex has been killed. Mm-hmm. Vax is extremely devastated, and what I enjoyed about this season 2 is that you get a bit more of Vax and Vex's backstory, why they are so close and reliant upon one another, or I would say Vax more so than Vex. In fact, there's this touching moment where Vax says, "I need you more than you need me." Mm-hmm. And that's when Vax sees the matron of ravens, it's a beautiful scene where there's like a gold thread connecting Vax to Vex, and the matron of ravens is almost severing that gold thread.
She severs the gold thread because she's going to take Vex's soul.
Yeah.
And he says, essentially, take me instead. And instead of doing that, when she breaks the thread, she gifts him with the vestige.
I'm assuming maybe she was impressed by his willingness to go in her place. I don't think it's specifically stated yet why she has entrusted him with the vestige, or
no, it's not specific. It's not what you call it. It's not explicitly said why Vax was given the vestige, just knowing. I think it's more like I think the matron of ravens sees something in Vax that reminds her of like her former champion, and thus, because I think he's willing to sacrifice himself to save his sister, she sees something worthy in him to be gifted the the vestige.
And now I was thinking back because once Vax gets the vestige, he also has these visions. Whether he's seeing into the past, and there is a moment where he's fighting this figure who's wearing a mask. I'm assuming that was the former champion.
That's the former champion.
At first I thought it might have been
Because he's
Vex with the mask. I thought that would be the reveal, but it was just
it's because he's wearing the vestige.
Okay.
So that's the former champion.
Okay. So, and one thing I will assume, like I'm going to assume based on the fact that once Vex is gifted this vestige, which is, as Katie said, the former champion of the Matron of Ravens, he's able to have these visions of the past. I'm going to assume that once they start claiming the other vestiges, maybe the larger picture will be revealed by each of them, or like they'll give them some glimpse.
I feel like we'll know by the end of the season what's going on, because like I said, I didn't see a lot of of campaign 1, and the only reason why I knew what happened in the campaign with Vex, with the necrotic energy and whatnot, trying to reach for the vestige, is because on YouTube there was a side-by-side look at what happened at the campaign. It's the video on YouTube that I saw.
Okay. So the group, on their way, once they get that vestige, they're basically going to proceed, but Kaylee, no, Kaylith, that's going to be one. I always feel like calling her Kaylee. I have the Kaylith. Kaylith basically sees the kingdom of Pyra, because I think it's close enough where she can see that it's basically engulfed in flames, and she kind of begs the group to kind of derail proceeding towards the next vestige to go help them out.
On their way to claim the next vestige, excuse me, or at least on their way to see Osisas, who is the matron of the Slayer's Take, and who is the large sphinx we see. It's not that she sees the volcano. Scanlan reads the words that's written on the broomstick, and he flies up. Of course, is making jokes and light of everything.
Yes, I forgot about that.
And he sees the volcano, and when he tells them what's going on, she knows the area that they are near the fire Arashari. And knowing that the fire plane is essentially opening up and will engulf the fire Ashari's village, she wants to go and help. But Vax, being Vax, he doesn't want to veer from the quest that they're on. And I think part of that is because he himself wants answers as to why he was given the vestige.
Yeah, that's the same impression I got too, that basically he's been gifted this powerful object and he's getting these visions. They're very disturbing, and he wants to know more about that. He also, thanks to the vestige, has increased speed, increased strength. And I think also the vestige might be taking some kind of toll on him, similar to, we haven't yet spoken about Grog and the sword, and the sword that he inherited, the sword that once belonged to the vampire Silas.
Silas Briarwood.
Because little by little, that sword which demands blood payment, the sword sort of literally feeds on blood.
And Grog in turn is gifted then with the strength of his of the one that the sword fed from.
Yeah.
And like, not to veer off too far from what we were talking about, but since you brought up Grog.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite characters in this series, and to see him struggle, like really struggle with this is really I feel for him.
So I will return to Grog because that part of his story is significant. It has consequences toward the
end of episode 6.
End of episode 6. So I'll return to that later. As Kay said, I kind of jumped ahead, but I just want to bring it up that while this major stuff is happening, Grog is also dealing with the consequences of taking the sword in season 1.
Yeah, I guess what we can call it is like there's an underlining story of Grog struggling with where his own strength comes from, because he's far too reliant on that sword.
Yeah, and also I think something that I also loved about this so far about this season, which I spoke with Katie about, is that each of the characters you're starting to get to know them a bit more. I think
We're
each are
getting more backstory.
yeah, they're also getting more moments to shine. And Grog could easily be dismissed as like a brainless sort of brute, but there's a lot to him. And I think, as his battle with that old guy proved, he doesn't really understand the true source of his strength. Hopefully, by the time this season ends, he will have found that true source because he thinks his strength relies in brute strength and his ability to rage and what makes him, the barbarian or whatever. But there's obviously more to him. So that's what I am appreciating so far, is that each of the characters are slowly starting to learn more about themselves as we are also starting to learn more about them in turn.
Yeah.
So one of the beautiful moments of when the group decides to go to Pyra is that Keyleth is actually able to master fire.
She essentially goes through her fire trial.
Which, if you remember in season 1, that was a major aspect of her insecurity in herself, and that she hadn't mastered all of these elements. She was doubting whether or not she deserved to wield any. So it's a beautiful moment for her because she gains the strength and the confidence she needs to sort of save the kingdom of Pyra, and she masters fire. So it was a nice confidence boost. I was very happy for her.
She gets a nice red jewel between
Yeah.
the antlers on her head.
Yeah, it's like with
Outfit upgrade.
I know, it's kind of reminded of Sailor Moon for any fans of them. Every time they got a power upgrade, their outfit changed as well. So it's like, that's what it kind of reminded me of. Eventually the group meets Osisa's mate, Kamal Jori. I'm just going to call him Kama. That would be a little easier for me. And he issues a very apparently simplistic challenge.
3 of them.
Yeah. And basically that they have to attempt to wound him because he has never been wounded in his life, and he'd love to know what that feels like.
And that's one of the 3 challenges.
Yeah, and of course, the group, for the most part, fails in this, but one hero emerges. Scanlan. And he's a character that definitely relies on humor, as you also mentioned. We were discussing this off camera.
It's a deprecating humor.
Yeah, because he feels safer in sort of being the comedic relief of the group. But each of these characters has depth, and Scanlan has depth too.
He does.
And he is intelligent and he's resourceful. So while the rest of Vox Machina was trying to literally wound Kama, Scanlan decides...
Kamadori.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him Kama. It's just a little easier for me. He decides, I'm going to wound him where I know it will count. Although I don't think he wants to literally hurt him. I think he just wants to stir something deep within Kama.
Right.
So he sings this epic song about love, regret, and separation. So as we didn't mention this, but Osisa and Kama have been separated for many, many, many years. They have not seen each other in a very long time.
Centuries.
So Scanlan sings this song, which speaks of longing for the one that you love, and Kama feels the wound within his heart, the wound of loss, and Scanlan wins.
He gets the sword.
Yes. And I love the moment when the rest of the group says, like, well, how did we win?
Yeah.
And they see Scanlan and Kama, like, talking and sharing, like, poetry sort of suggestions.
Yeah.
And it's just another brilliant moment where the gang is, like, flabbergasted, like, honestly, like, you're the one who did it.
How did he do this? What did you do? Kind of stuff.
He did what he does best. He sang. So Kama grants Scanlan the sword, which is the next vestige. And the sword gives him a vision of the next location that they have to go to,
Which is the Feywilds.
Yeah, and I think at first they're not sure what they're really looking at.
No,
right?
he actually sees more than one vestige. He sees one that's in the Feywilds. It's a bow that's stuck in this tree in the Feywilds. Then they see a horde of barbarians that kind of sort of look like Grog.
There's the gauntlet.
The gauntlet. Yeah, and they have attacked a village and they're giving tribute to one of the dragons of the conclave. and they see that, and you can visibly see Grog like not want to go to this village first. There's something between that leader and Grog, and we don't know what that.
Maybe Grog wasn't cut out for the barbarian way of life like he thought. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe that'll be the twist. But but definitely Grog is not. When he hears the description from Scanlan, he's definitely not thrilled. He doesn't want to even go there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of the dragons comes, wreaks a little havoc. Kama and the dragon fight. Kama, unfortunately, is gravely wounded.
He dies.
I was very sad because Kama and Osisa will never be. But at least he died having felt something, after all those years.
And Scanlan being a bard, he has access to magic, so he was able to cast something where Kamadori was able to see Osisa, if not literally see her, at least have an image of her again, and he thanks Scanlan for that before he dies, which was heartbreaking.
And this is the moment where I mentioned before that Grog has been slowly succumbing to the nefarious influences of the sword. It's almost becoming an addiction. Just as the sword craves blood, Grog is sort of craving that desire to feed the sword, for lack of, there's probably a better way to explain that.
I think it's not that he feels this desire to feed the sword. He likes the strength that he gets from that sword.
Yeah.
Which is why we have this duality of Grog not really knowing where his strength comes from. Like we saw when we went to Vasselheim with that monk in that arena who kept asking him where his strength came from.
I kind of got Neo and Morpheus vibes when Neo first goes in the first Matrix film, when Neo first enters it and there's like that training room. Anyway,
I've never really seen the movie, so.
Oh, okay, well, there's this whole training montage and where Neo has to learn about. Doesn't matter, but that's kind of what it. Never mind, it's too complicated. But that's kind of what it reminded me of, and Grog attacks the dragon, and under the influence of the sword, Grog is even more reckless than he normally would be, and throughout the episodes leading up to episode 6, Pike, who is very close with Grog, is probably one of the few people that's noticed that something is slightly off.
Yeah.
I think it's also because she is very close to him. She's probably more, not concerned, but more in tune with some of those changes. And unfortunately, Grog, in his sort of bloodlust state,
it's definitely a bloodlust.
Yeah, stabs Pike.
With the sword.
And this is sort of foreshadowing a dream that Grog has, where he has essentially slaughtered all of his friends under the influence of the sword.
And not to mention the fact that Keyleth is trying to cast this shifting spell where she'll bring them to the Feywilds, and because they were knocked by the dragon trying to stop them, Grog, Scanlan, and Pike were kind of like shifted out of the circle that Keyleth had made.
Yeah.
So now they're separated in the Feywilds, which isn't really a good thing.
Yeah, so that's essentially how it ends. There's the dragon. I think it's the dragon that spits up that acidic kind of liquid. It's really gross.
He breathes acid.
He's essentially still trying to attack them. Keyleth is trying to do this spell. Grog has just stabbed Pike.
It's a mess.
It's complete chaos, and like Katie said, the group is split. When Keyleth, Vax and Vex end up in, and also Percy. End up in the Feywilds. At first, they're not really sure where they are, and that's kind of how episode 6 ends, where they're in this new place, but they really have no clue where this new place is.
Well, I don't necessarily think that they don't know where they are. They most certainly know where they are, but
it's just that they don't know where that current location is in the Feywilds.
I think that they know that they are in the Feywilds. I think that because no one has really ever been to the Feywilds, that they don't. That everything that they are looking at is new and a little like surreal. Also, the fact that they know that Grog, Pike, and Scanlan are separated from them, and they don't know where in the Feywilds they are either. So,
Do you think that Scanlan, Pike, and Grog were actually brought to the Feywilds, or do you think they may have been brought to where those barbarians were?
Oh, I think that they were definitely brought to the Feywilds. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
I could be wrong, but that's all the only thing that I can think of because they continue to follow um, Keyleth and Percy and Vax and Vex.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But again, we're not really going to know until Friday when episodes 7, 8, and 9 come out, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, so like I said, from start to finish, so far the episodes like held my attention. They were very much filled with action. There still is that signature humor that you love about the crew of Vox Machina, but I felt like the humor also had a place. Like it just wasn't there to be there. Like I'm thinking of when Percy and Scanlan land on the giant butt cheeks. That's what they are. Because Scanlan, being Scanlan, can't do anything halfsies. He does it all the
No,
way.
he has a very dirty mind, so I mean, and that's just part of his character.
It does, but it's still it's endearing.
Yes.
And Percy says, like, normally I would be upset, and then before he can finish, like, Grog falls, like, or he lands right in between the butt cheeks. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot that's going on, a lot that they're all dealing with. So if you think about it, Vax is dealing with, now I have this Death Walker's ward. I got to figure out how to wield it. Grog is has really no control over the sword and the consequences that he's wounded Pike. I don't think it's going to be fatally because Pike is part of the main cast, so I think she's going to pull through. And the rest of the gang are now in the Feywilds. I don't really think they'll have any allies per se in the Feywilds, so
No.
they have to deal with that.
Yep.
And did the dragon manage? No, he didn't manage to get the sword, right?
He did get
he
the
did,
sword.
yeah.
He did get the sword.
The dragon has claimed the second vestige that they found, so now they have to locate. They have to reclaim that vestige. They still have to find the gauntlet
And the bow.
and the bow. So I don't think either of those two sort of, I'm going to call them quests, but those two tasks are going to be really simple
No.
because they have a lot in their way.
Yes.
But like I said, we would love to know where you think. I mean, if you like, I know that this sort of show is not following the source material that closely, but we would love to know how you think it's going to go, like what you think the end result is going to be.
I mean, I honestly think that just like they follow the source material as close as they can because there are some episodes where there's just mundane things going on and there's no actual story going on. So if they're veering from the original source material, it's not that big of a deal.
The beard thing. I want to talk about Grog's beard. Was that a campaign thing?
I don't know.
Because if you know, let us know. Because like for one of the videos that I was watching, it talked about how some of like the funny moments of the campaign, and you see Grog getting his beard. So I kind of wonder if in the Critical Role campaign that was something funny that happened, and they kept it in the animated series. Because that would be fun. That would be a nice sort of nod to those who are familiar with the campaign and what's going on. So I would like to know that, if you know if that was like a little funny moment that they just kept in there. And Grog, it appears, is keeping his beard, which is not bad.
No.
I think the beard
Makes
suits him.
very dashing.
Yes, the beard suits him.
Yes.
So yeah, there is a lot going on. A lot that the group has to deal with.
It is, but I want to say that it's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of character development, a lot of story development, and I enjoy it very much, and I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, and the dragons need to die.
Yeah, I love dragons, but these 4 dragons are really starting to piss me off.
And also, I want to give a shout out to all of the voice actors doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Especially the leader of the dragons. Can I say the voice is very sexy? I know he's evil, but that voice actor, it's just so
if it's
soothing.
Matt Mercer, I'm going to laugh.
I wonder if it is. Because it's very soothing to the ears. Like, as I was listening to him talk about his plans for destruction, has a very nice voice. And another thing that was also hinted at is that dragons are able to assume human form. Because if you think back to the first season, the villain who you didn't know was the villain was a dragon in the form of a human, right? Or
He
am I-
was. He was. I don't know if that's for every dragon. I don't
Okay.
think it is. I think he was just kind of like a special case
Okay.
kind of a thing.
Because that would be curious, like if we could think of like what their human forms would be like. I kind of picture the acidic spewing one, because like his throat is very like almost having like a gut, and just like I don't know. I was trying to picture if they had human forms, what the human forms would be like. But yeah, so they have a lot to contend with, but Vox Machina will see it through. I definitely believe there's going to be season 2 will not be the end of it because they're setting up too much for season 2 to be like the finale, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think that we'll have more seasons to talk about, which I'm really excited for.
So we are definitely excited to continue watching the remaining episodes, and we will do another podcast
Yes.
on the ending of Vox Machina
Yeah,
season 2.
Because why not?
Yeah, it's a fantastic show, fantastic characters, and as always, give us your thoughts and your opinions, what you like, what you kind of don't like, or where you think the show will go. We really enjoy reading your comments. We enjoy your support.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye,
Bye everyone.
guys.